Christina Tobin. I'm the founder of the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, which is an organization for creating open and transparent elections, not only here in Colorado, but nationally. I've been an advocate for open and transparent elections, fighting for that since 17 years of age when my father ran for governor in Illinois as a third-party candidate, and I saw him wrongfully knocked off the ballot. I have firsthand seen the uphill battles of what gubernatorial candidates, presidential candidates, Senate candidates, congressional candidates have had to go through during the last 15 years of my life. Today, we're holding a press conference to not only announce on October 8th, we're going to be holding a truly historic open debate where all ballot qualified candidates have been invited to participate in this debate, totaling 7 candidates here in Colorado, governor candidates, that is. We are also in the process of launching debates across the country, which will be announced in the next week or so, from California to Utah to Florida and so on. I would like to get started today, but the first thing that I wanted to address before I do is that we need to call out that we need to not only open the debates nationwide, but we also need to address that according to the League of Women Voters, that is, of the U.S., that the Commission on Presidential Debates, that is, has perpetuated a fraud on the American voter. And this is something that we will be addressing at the debate on October 8th here at Infinity Park at the International Ballroom at 7 p.m. And I welcome everybody to be a part of that. So I want to start with our first speakers today to address this debate, of which we have 4 qualified candidates confirmed for: Matthew Hess with the Libertarian Party, Michael Dunafon, an independent, Marcus Giovanni, an independent, and Harry Hempy of the Green Party. They will be wrapping up this press conference. But I want to get started with a variety of leaders here in Colorado that come from different organizations, whether it's Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, We Are Change, or an organizer of the 420 rally successfully earlier this year that was held in Colorado. And they will address not only what it is they do, but also the need to open the debates in Colorado. There have been many debates in Colorado, and unfortunately, only the 2 candidates that have been invited have been the Democrats and Republicans for the most part. And we wholeheartedly at Free and Equal invite both Governor Hickenlooper and the Republican candidate Bob Beaupre to be a part of this debate. So thank you so much for your time, and I'd like to get started with Mr. Baker of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is John Baker. I'm not running for governor. I'm retired law enforcement, retired military, so I couldn't pass the vetting, I'm sure. But I'm really proud to be here today with these gentlemen who are going to offer an opportunity to present the truth, to present another side of our government, to look at things in the eyes of the people, and that's a pleasure to be part of. Law Enforcement Against Prohibition is a 150,000 member organization across the country and internationally, and those who speak are only active law enforcement personnel, those who have worked the streets. I was in Southern California. The whole purpose of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition is not to have people running around using drugs rampantly, uselessly, needlessly, but to enforce the rights of the people to understand that the possession of marijuana or the possession of a drug, not necessarily a crime. It doesn't necessarily mean that a 19-year-old has to give up their life because they had an ounce of marijuana. And you say, that's bizarre. 2 years ago, I talked to a young man in Michigan, possession of little over 1 ounce of marijuana. He's doing a life term. Granted, he wasn't an angel. He had stolen some cars. He had broken into a few houses. The last straw, 1 ounce of marijuana, life in prison at 19. That's what Law Enforcement Against Prohibition is all about. Finding a good drug reform, finding a way to handle this opportunity with candidates such as this in a new way, in a more progressive way. You know, the United States has more people in prison per capita than any other country in the world. If you didn't know that, look it up. You know, we browbeat China, we browbeat all these countries who we say human rights, we have more people in prison per capita than any other country in the world. And we're the freest country in the world. Again, what's wrong with that picture? So again, I am pleased to be here. I am pleased to support this. I am pleased to speak, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions after all the speakers are finished. And on that, I'm going to bid you a good morning.
Thank you so much. I would like to now introduce Bruce Baumann of We Are Change Colorado.
Thanks everybody for showing up, and thanks to Christina Tobin for having me. I really take this as an honor to be with all these great governor candidates who are standing up for the things that really matter and really taking a stand on being who they are and standing up for that. So greetings, I'm Bruce Baumann with We Are Change Colorado, and today I'm standing before you as nothing more than just a reality acknowledger. It's no longer a taboo or conspiracy theory to question whether the government has your best interest in their minds. It's proven that they don't. And so the time has come where the people are demanding this honesty and accountability and actual representation from their representatives. Huh. It's like what they should be doing, isn't it? So we're all here today to support Free and Equal and their quest to open up the elections and to open up the debates in America. Here in Colorado, well, we're thankful to have them because we're going to have the opportunity to see how our candidates for governor, how they handle the tough questions. Questions like, what are their stances on GMO labels? And do they support the Federal Reserve system of fractional reserve banking? What's their viewpoint on fracking? Do they support hemp? Stuff like this. These are the questions that the people really want to know. We don't need the stuff that doesn't matter. We want to know the issues that actually matter, and that's what Free and Equal is doing with this open debate on October 8th. So we're very much looking forward to hearing how those candidates answer those questions on October 8th here at Infinity Park. And remember that old quote, everybody? If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. Well, looks like Hickenlooper, the Democrat, Beaupre, the Republican, and Fiornio, the Independent, we'll see if they can handle the heat. They've been invited. They haven't you know, declined, but they haven't accepted. So they're still waiting. And so we have a couple more days here to see if they'll be a part of this. But we'll see if they can handle the heat. And we'll see. We're hoping they will. And so today, you know, I'm representing We Are Change Colorado, which we are a community. We're an activist community, but we're more than just activists. We're just really a community that comes together every Monday night where we offer, you know, any of these guys will be offered to come speak. Anyone that has something they'd like to share, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's an event, we're a community that we come in and we share truth. And so, you know, anyone that wants to check us out, we have a community center where we meet every Monday at 8646 West Colfax, and we're just all about shining light on the darker issues. We're not as scared, we're not stuck in fear to talk about the things that really matter. And so, whether it's by spreading the word about Free and Equal's open debate, or whether it's hitting the polls in 5 weeks, or whether it's taking action in your local community, we're all here to share truth and stand up for justice. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for being here, and thanks to Christina Tobin for doing what she does.
Thank you, Bruce. That was lovely. I'd like to now introduce Malachi Martinez. He's the organizer of the really awesome, I wish I was here, 420 rally this year in Colorado. So thank you for coming, Mr. Martinez.
All right, I'm short. I got to move this around. How y'all doing today? Well, thank you, Free and Equal, for inviting me out here to speak. Thank you for all the candidates here that are running for governor. And thank you, Christina, especially for saying, hey, come on out here. I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm Malachi Martinez. Everybody calls me Tiny. I'm the co-organizer of the Denver 420 rally, that big old thing that happens down at Civic Center Park every year. And when I was asked to come and speak over here, I was actually pretty honored. You know, I see something happening here in Colorado. Us stoners are actually getting accepted for the equal citizens that we are. You know, so I'm very proud to be here. And I just, you know, I started thinking about, well, what am I going to say? And you know, I started remembering when I was a kid. And my dad was always really active, you know, he was always voting for everything, you know, the civil rights movement was going on still, and he was always making sure that everybody in the community got out there. And all I ever remember hearing was Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. You never heard of no third parties. I didn't even know they existed until I became an adult. You know, Free and Equal is an organization that is giving the other parties a chance to get their voice heard. We need that. We need that in this state. We need that in this nation. And I think we're trying to set a precedence here, you know, to let everybody around the world know that third-party options are available. And hey, you might just like our ideas better than what the Democrat and the Republicans say. So I want to make sure and tell everybody, get out there and vote this year. And hope that Mr. Chicken Looper and Mr. Beaupre join us on October 8th, and thank y'all very much for being here.
Well, wonderful. That's the beginning of, I think, much more variety of speakers we're going to have in the future. And before I'm very excited to introduce our first governor candidate for here, standing to my left. I wanted to also announce, excitingly, that we have locked in as a moderator for the governor debate, co-hosted by the Glendale Chamber of Commerce here at Infinity Park, which has been amazing to us, all of them. The moderator is going to be, who was recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, Professor Griff of Public Enemy.
This is the situation, I'll make you understand. My place in this world and how I'm living as a black man, striving to be somebody that can be respected. Put on this earth with a gift, cause I'm elected by the G. The O, this is PPP, it's like Doma R.D. Ball when I swing. You understand, critical. I know the subject is deep, but 434 years I can't repeat it, I teach you. Of the global plan, designed and hatched by the man with the mark in his head, with the mark in his hand.
Socially conscious hip-hop band. I've met and worked indirectly, directly with Chuck D of Public Enemy. I've been speaking with Griff for the last year or so. He's become a friend of mine. I'm pretty darn excited to have him. We will also be having 2012 Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein speaking prior to the debates about her experience and wanting to open the debates nationwide. As many of you may recall, I believe she actually got arrested for trying to attend or be in a debate in 2012. So she's a wonderful woman leader. And we will finally also have a surprise video from a nationally renowned politician, but really has a left-right feel. It's kind of been maybe not so much in the Democratic Party anymore, but I'm pretty excited to have that play before the debate. So let's get started with governor candidates, and thank you again so much for coming. Matthew Hess with the Libertarian Party and his running mate. I would love for both of them to speak right now. Thank you, Matt, and both of you for coming today. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Hess. I'm the Libertarian candidate for Governor of Colorado. Political parties have come and gone throughout our history. It was a normal part of our process. We have stopped evolving politically, and now we find ourselves entrenched with just two major parties. The divisiveness of rhetoric, the gap between policy and common sense, and the animosity among Americans continues to grow. Our nation will not stand unless we, as a people, decide to reopen our minds to the possibilities that new party options hold. The people of Colorado can no longer afford to base their support of a candidate upon chances of success, because doing so makes their own success quite impossible. Free and Equal is working to open debates across the country. I am thankful that we have such a great organization fighting to bring Colorado the gubernatorial debate that the people deserve. A debate which includes all the candidates and ideas available in this race. Only then will we finally have the open and honest debates the politicians like to talk about having but never do. The people are sick of the political games, and the majority of Americans can now recognize the need for new people, new parties to step in and undo the damage that's been done. Unaffiliated voters are now the single largest voting bloc in Colorado. If they fully exercise their voices this fall, we would all have a new direction the very next day. Liberty is winning. It's already impacting politics as the major parties feebly attempt to adopt our message and try to be more like us. But that effort is futile because their agenda conflicts with liberty. My website is at www.matthewhess.org. On there you can read more of my platform about bringing back peace and prosperity and freedom to Colorado. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you for having me.
Hi. So my name is Brandon Young. I'm running with Matthew Hess as the Lieutenant Governor candidate with the Libertarian Party. So two things I realized as I come up here. One, I have no piece of paper with any notes on it because I didn't expect to speak. And two, thanks Tiny for being the only other guy that had his sunglasses on, so I don't feel quite as alone. So I am a lifelong Coloradan. I was born in Denver at Rocky Mountain Hospital, raised in the town of Pine, Colorado. My grandfather was on the news for 40 years in Denver, so people here knew him as well. My great-grandfather served on the Supreme Court. So my family has a lot of ties to this community. As you look at everything that's happened, not just in our state, but in our country, it seems the more that the two parties take control of things and they take away more power from us, the worse things get. So I come to this not only to support Matthew, but to say, it's time. It's time for us to get mad. It's okay to be angry about things, and it's okay to want change. So I praise the work that Free and Equal is doing with all this because of what the candidates have done with the existing political parties by shutting out other candidates, letting people know they have a choice. All they've done is hurt freedom, and they've hurt our Constitution, our state Constitution, and the rights of all of us. So thank you very much. I'm just going to keep it brief, and thank you guys very much, and thank all the candidates.
Thank you. Free and Equal wouldn't be here today. It's for the people, we the people, everyone here. And so thank you so much, everyone, for your support. And I'd like to now introduce our next governor candidate here in Colorado, Independent Mike Dunafon. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to Glendale, Colorado, the Luxembourg of Liberty, the Vatican of Freedom. I am proud to be the mayor of this great town and proud to have everyone here today on this particular subject, the idea that we can change our lives. It's not a new idea, but it is an idea particularly unique to the United States. It's one that we seem to have forgotten somehow as we've been led down the path to subservience. We are not a nation of servants, but we have become one. The laws that we've passed over the last 100 years have served to imprison our citizens. The situation with drug reform in this country right now is tantamount to the new Jim Crow. 7-to-1, the prisoners in this country are of color. 75% of the DEA's revenue is derived from marijuana and marijuana seizures. So here we are in Colorado changing that. Who's going to make up the revenue? How are they going to fill those beds? They both give lip service, the two parties, to the idea that they are supporting liberty and that they are dedicated to our freedom. Well, we see Mr. Beaupre bring Chris Christie. Chris Christie condemns us for being a bunch of pot-smoking morons. Well, it turns out that Mr. Christie was, in 2000 and 2001, the lobbyist for CCA, the largest private prison industry in the United States. No wonder he wants to keep marijuana illegal. So our legislature, much like the legislatures of other cities and or other states, Arizona guarantees the private prison industry 100% occupancy. If they fall below 100% occupancy, the good taxpayers of Arizona make up for it. Well, our legislature said no to that, but we guaranteed 90% without the make-up money. So last year, this is where you find both candidates, left and right, being exactly the same person. Last year, in a private deal, 2013, John Hickenlooper goes around the legislature. We fall below 90% in some of our prisons, Burlington, Colorado, for instance. And against the wishes of the legislators and our citizens, we gave the private prisons $2 million. Both parties are exactly the same people. You cannot find out how somebody got arrested for marijuana because it affects the poor so dreadfully. If you could just say, marijuana arrests need to stop, it's legal now, take them out of jail, you would have to sort through the data to find the information. So some poor guy going to work gets pulled over, his tail lights out, turns out his insurance has lapsed. They impound his car. He can't get to work. He misses his court date. They arrest him. They take him in and he says, I'd rather do the 30 days. I can't afford the fine. They let him out in 19 days and he agrees to supervised probation. He has to pay for the probation. He has to pay for the urinalysis. He goes hot for pot. Now he's back in prison and it's a pot charge. We are turning our prisons into zoos, and on display are our brothers and sisters. And they're using as an example jobs in Burlington, Colorado. LEAP has a great video out, and the LEAP video says, 1930, they got a nice little graphic there of you, the citizen, can order heroin through the Montgomery Ward's catalog in 1930. Drug addiction for our citizens at that point was 1.3%. $1 trillion and millions of lives affected or people dying from this false war. Our drug addiction rate is 1.3%. We see the southern border of the United States and don't ask any questions about the southern border of Mexico. How all of a sudden did people arrive on our southern border? Anybody that's been to Honduras understands that you can't get through the southern border of Mexico. It's full of federales with machine guns. Who picked up the phone and called them and said, let them in? We've got to stop the nonsense. Our country is being inundated by sociopathic, narcissistic leaders who are willing to hire psychopaths to do their work. We can change all that. We can change it on November 4th. All we've got to do is have the willingness to stop doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, which, by the way, is the definition of insanity. You are throwing your vote away when you do DNR, and DNR means do not resuscitate those parties. We've had enough. And so I welcome everyone here today because it's so important. And believe me, it's not easy to stand up here and fly in the face of $2 billion industries, the Republicans and the Democrats. So to find out more, go to Free and Equal. Find out more about me. It's Dunafon, D-U-N-A-F-O-N, F-O-R, governor.com. And thank you for caring. Thank you.
Thank you. He's right. There's more of us than there are of them, and we will rise positively, powerfully, and peacefully. Our final candidate for the governor debate will be Harry Hempy of the Green Party. Welcome, Harry. Thank you.
I think I'll talk about two things. First is I just found out yesterday about a very shocking debate problem in Kentucky. I have two sons, Ted and David, who live in Kentucky. So my older son called me yesterday and told me about the Senate race for in Kentucky. There is a libertarian named David Patterson who has been denied access to the debate that KET television is putting on. That's a public television station contributed to with taxpayer money. And Mr. Patterson is not allowed to be in the senatorial debate, first of all, because he doesn't have the poll numbers that the television station requires. And secondly, and this is the first time I've heard of this, and I am shocked, KET television in Kentucky requires $100,000 of campaign funds to have been raised by the candidates before they can get into the debate. You have to have $100,000 to get into a debate in Kentucky. That's not free and that's not equal. I do need to call my other son, David, who works for KET Television. He's the director of technology there, and see if he's going to stay working for that company. It's terrible, and it's I'll just say it makes our problems here in Colorado of getting into debates with Democrats and Republicans look a little easy in comparison. Okay, the second thing I'll talk about is how we create fair and equal elections in Colorado. I have a 4-point plan. It's very simple. I am calling on the legislature to pass 4 changes, statutory changes to Colorado election law. First of all, the Elections Division in the Secretary of State's office needs to create an informed electorate in Colorado. They currently have no mission to do that. So, I call on the Elections Division, or on the legislature, to direct the Elections Division to tell all voters, all registered voters, of all candidates for all offices. They don't do that today. The first time most people see who's on the ballot is when they get their ballot in the mail. I also call, as part of that, for the state, for the Elections Division, to sponsor public, open debates for all candidates for all offices. If we depend on the media and we depend on the Democrats and Republicans to do those debates, they don't get done. So it needs to be a public function. Second, in Colorado, we need to implement a multiple choice voting system because our vote for only one, plurality winner system that we have today creates a 2-party system and what's the right word? Not enforces, but encourages and makes continual 2-party system. So we need a multi-party, a multi-choice voting system. Third, I think we should end state funding of political party primaries. Political parties are private organizations, and it costs Colorado taxpayers about $3 million to run a primary election. And when you look at the fact that most of the races in primary elections are not even contested, that's a big waste of money, and I believe it gives focus and some sort of credentials to Democratic and Republican parties that other parties can't have. So save $3 million, do away with our party primaries, and have a multiple choice voting system so we can have lots of candidates in our election. The most important thing, I mean, we talk about voter rights, getting everyone out to vote, having higher citizen involvement in the political system and so on. That will happen when we have more candidates and more choice for people to vote on. And then finally, I will ask the legislature to implement a tractable, verifiable online system for collecting signatures for citizens' initiative. Today our initiative process is all on paper. It takes tens of thousands of man hours for an initiative to get enough signatures to be on the ballot, and that's 20th century or 19th century technology. It shouldn't be so hard to get an initiative on the ballot. So with that, I'll just say I am Harry Hempy, and I look forward to the debate next Wednesday on October 8th. Thanks for being here, and see you there. Thank you.
And before we get to questions, which is open to everyone here, I just want to wrap up on 3 brief points. I couldn't agree more with all of our candidates, but Harry, on the point of the debates being closed. I saw when my dad, who did get on the ballot 4 years later as lieutenant governor in Illinois, and I saw he got over 5% in the polls to be included in the debates. And what happened a day after that, the legal women voters of Illinois increased the threshold to 10%. And so he was then excluded from the debates after fulfilling the requirements. So I thought, well, okay, that's probably not going to be the way. That was not great. And I also saw third parties had to get 5 times more signatures in Illinois. It varies versus the D's and R's, only 5,000, 25,000 for third parties and independents. And throughout the course of my life, I've seen all the barriers throughout the United States in helping run national ballot drives for presidential candidates of independent, actually, in the past. And I've seen firsthand the kind of barriers that the system uses to knock viable candidates off the ballot. And I also see a lot of rigging going on with voting as well. I think that we need to have open source voting. I'm not the one that would say what is right, but we're here to bring the intellectuals together to address whether we should have plurality voting, to approval voting, to instant runoff voting, to proportional representation. I'm hearing that's a great thing. Over 86 countries have it throughout the U.S. So these are some of the hurdles that we have to overcome. Learning about, of course, the mail-in ballots here in Colorado makes me a little nervous that people vote 15, around the middle of the month, and how are they counted? And I think that's going to be one of the biggest hurdles to overcome. And it can be done in Colorado, but it's going to take a lot of force on the ground on election days to ensure those ballots are counted the right way. But in any case, finally, free and equal elections. We are truly here to inspire a movement. The polls say 53% of voters perceive themselves as independents. They want to replace, the majority of the people want to replace every member of Congress. I mean, the people are speaking out loud, and they're looking for a movement that they can trust. We've had Occupy. We've had the Tea Parties. We're here to welcome, for the most part, I found those to be good people on the ground that would want good things for the world across the political spectrum. We need to unite together from the left and the right on the bigger issues, whether it's the National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, the military-industrial complex, the prison system, local curriculums, to fracking, and so on, war, all these different topics. And the way we're going to do that is through music. Music is going to be key if we ever want to bring about an evolutionary, this is a Dr. Ron Paul quote, I work with Ralph Nader, Ventura, all of them, they paved the way for this movement. And he once said, if you ever want to bring about a revolutionary change, I like to drop the R and say an evolutionary change, you're going to need two things, the youth and the music. And maybe hopefully three, Infinity Park, we'll see. But, we want to do it in Colorado. We're looking at different venues for the United We Stand Fest next year, and we want to inspire these kids to get engaged in the voting process. They can see they have the power in their hands with this handheld device, to be able to look online and see the candidates they're going to run for office, third-party, independent, all of them. So we're going to be providing, with the help of others, building candidates, building amazing, honest, accountable candidates, organizations, to come together to take back our government. We're going to give the tools to give these candidates a chance to win, how to run for office, to be heard, online debates, how much money is in your campaign, and so on. And I do foresee that parties and money in politics will fade away, and we will live peaceful lives and longer lives and healthier lives and cures for everything. So thank you so much, everyone, for your time today. And if we have any questions, I would love to be able to ask them. Frank, please. Good question. Frank Atwood there asked if for the candidates if they could respond to the wasted voting argument, right? Is that correct? Okay.
Wasted vote is when you don't vote for what you believe in. You don't vote your heart, you waste your vote. It's just that simple. But there's a solution to the wasted vote argument, as Frank knows, and that's approval voting or yes-no voting, ranked voting. There's a few options available. But we do need to change the voting system in Colorado to something that eliminates animosity, eliminates spoilers, and gives a much better consensus of the true, real candidate that's supported by the people. Thank you.
Mike Donovan, please.
Frank, this one's loud. Frank, is that a push-pull that you've got going there? It might be a push-pull. Frank has been working diligently for many years on the wasted vote argument. So I won't get off into that. They can certainly question you, and you make great points. I'm suggesting that the wasted vote is the Republican or the Democrat in this circumstance. We're not going to change the voting patterns in this country until we are willing to believe in ourselves. Changing the voting rules, I think, may come. But if we continue to vote for the same people and expect a different outcome, we will have wasted all of our votes. Vote for the independents, and if you don't believe the independent can change for you, and you want the same thing, you want more government, more regulations, more people in prison, more of the same old thing, vote for a Republican or a Democrat. So, Thank you.
And Harry Hempy.
Yeah, I like to say vote your values, not your fears. And that's a lot easier said than done, because it's a lot easier to create fear than value and love. And creating fear is the primary tactic that people respond to when they say, oh, I must vote for somebody who's going to defeat the evil guy. I mean, that's where we are in our election system. So I tell people two things, if I can remember them both. The first is, are you voting short-term or are you voting long-term? Is it more important to win this year's election, or is it more important to have an election system that is going to give better government to us? As long as we are only concerned about who wins the next election, just like a corporation today is concerned about what their next quarterly profit statement looks like, we're not going to have long-term progress. So people will need to find a love, to look at a long-term view of where we want our government to go, and stop voting for who they think is going to beat the bad guy. We just need to get out of that. The other thing I tell people is that I can't tell them how to vote, but I ask what their priorities are. And for some people, the right to have an abortion is the most important issue, and that's how they will vote. I look forward to the day when a lot of people get concerned about and get some hope that they can change our political system, that they can create multi-party government, and will put their vote, where their long-term values are. How we get to that, election reform is what we need. Multiple choice voting system, and the catch-22 is that Democrats and Republicans write the laws. So why are they going to change that system? I think the best argument for electing a governor who is not a Democrat or Republican is that governor can, I want to use a nice politically correct word here, can work with the legislature to demand a fair and equal voting system. That's what we have to do. Frank, thank you.
And one day we will have the accountable people in office that I feel will address and bring about great electoral reform and the kind of voting. And I really do hope there are a lot of non-voters out there too. I hope and I do foresee the movement of unity of coming together will inspire a lot of people to get registered to vote. We're working with Rock the Vote and headcount.com, some really awesome organizations to really inspire the kids. I don't personally hold it against anybody who hasn't voted in the past, but in the future I will, because the votes will count. We're going to bring about accountability within our electoral system. And I think all the answers that you all had were all great and perfect in their own way. So did we have any other questions for the candidates? One over there? Or anyone? Wonderful. I probably should have had you come up to the mic, but you were asking about the candidates for Florida. If you want to come up and just ask it real quick on camera. It's good for people to see people asking us.
All right. I'd like to ask each of the candidates for their views on fluoridation of the water supply and the labeling of GMOs, and how the impact of the water we drink and the food we eat directly affects the lives of the citizens in the state and country that we live in. Thank you.
Yeah, you can just go about 2 minutes each, 1 2 minutes.
Sorry about that. As you all know, fluoride is a byproduct of the aluminum industry. You can check the aluminum industry and see the byproduct and how it's being used, and make your own decisions about fluoride. This was a big issue in the 60s, and it's coming back now. GMOs, think about the situation in Africa right now. We're not giving GMOs to countries that are starving to death. We're also, if you go read Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, you'll understand that DDT was outlawed before it was fully vetted. 70 million Africans have died by insect-borne diseases like malaria and dengue fever. We could have saved them with DDT. In sub-Saharan Africa, it's the only place, the highest place in the world with an incidence of the AIDS virus right now in sub-Saharan Africa. We are giving them Depo-Provera with a needle. You've got to, if you really want to get off into this debate, you've got to take a look at the race war that is the environmental movement. We are killing Africans at an astounding rate, and these things have a lot to do with it. If you bail off into that debate, you're going to look like somebody that's chasing black helicopters. It is, however, very, very real. The numbers are real. It is a race war, and we are killing Africans at an astounding rate, both the left and the right. So go do your research, spend a little time, understand. Rachel Carson's book was paid for by the Sierra Club. Go find out for yourself. It's not as easy as just answering one of these questions when somebody stands up and says, what do you think of fluoride? Well, what do you think of fluoride? It's a byproduct of the aluminum industry. They couldn't get rid of the aluminum waste products, so you could make the debate that it was used in our water, and there's all sorts of other debates around that. Now, I've got an 11 o'clock. I'm very, very sorry. I didn't know this was going to go past this time, so please accept my apologies. Thank you, all the candidates. I look forward to the 8th, and thank you, Glendale. We should have brought our sunscreen. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Hempy?
Yeah, Glendale's a nice place, isn't it? Yeah, I'm really glad you asked about GMO labeling. That's Initiative 105 on the ballot this fall. The Monsanto and the grocer associations are going to spend probably 10 times as much money as the pro-GMO labeling folks on this initiative, so it's important to use your brain and maybe even turn off the TV. Would be a great relief for all of us during election season. Yeah, GMO labeling is just a right to know. I don't have a good speech laid out for this, but GMOs are rejected by, labeling is required of GMO ingredients in 65 countries around the world. A lot of countries don't allow GMOs in their country at all. And it's time for the United States folks to stand up to the money that tells you, oh, it's fine, just buy your processed food with all the sugar in it because you can trust your grocers. I reject that. I'm going to vote for Initiative 105 this fall. Thank you.
Matthew Hess, please.
To me, this is an issue about informed consent. And if you don't have the information available and at your disposal, you cannot properly consent to something in your food products if you have allergies or whatever. So while I do support GMO labeling, I'm actually against Prop 105 because of all the loopholes currently in it. It exempts so much, it's almost ineffective. So Prop 105 really needs to be rewritten to be fair and equal across the board as far as all food products goes if we're going to have any kind of sensible labeling moving forward. I am against the fluoridation because, again, informed consent. People are not fully informed about the impacts of fluoride in their water, and they are not given the opportunity to consent or not. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Well, do we have any other questions? I think we're all set for today. So thank you so much. I appreciate again. Please join the debate, the governor debate at the Infinity International Ballroom, October 8th at 7 p.m., co-hosted by the Glendale Chamber of Commerce. So thank you again, everyone, for your time today, and all elections shall be free and equal someday.